Esther Gidon Ewart. It's Friday, May 26th. This is Africa 54. Saudi Arabia and the United States say Sudan's warring sides were complying better with a ceasefire despite reports of sporadic fighting from Khartoum residents and of clashes elsewhere in the country. In Goma, Eastern DRC, residents gather every Saturday of the month to clean up the environment and improve sanitation in their communities. VOA's Paul Ndiho was recently there to witness firsthand and has our report. And the African Union celebrates its 60th anniversary with music concerts held in Addis Ababa. Heather Maxwell will have more in our entertainment report. All this and much more coming up on today's Africa 54. We begin in East Africa, where Al-Shabaab militants attacked a military base housing Ugandan forces with the African Union peacekeeping mission in Somalia on Friday. A Somali army captain said both sides suffered heavy casualties. The militants targeted base belonging to the African Union transition mission in Somalia, 130 kilometers southwest of the capital, Mogadishu. A Uganda People's Defense Force spokesperson confirmed the attack but had few details. ATMI says Al-Shabaab hit the base using car and suicide bombers and that airborne reinforcements from their mission and its allies destroyed the militants' weaponry as they withdrew. ATMI gave no details on casualties. Al-Shabaab claimed it killed 137 soldiers, but those numbers could not be confirmed. Sudan's warring sides are complying better with a ceasefire despite reports of sporadic fighting in Khartoum and elsewhere, according to statements from Saudi Arabia and the United States on Friday. The army and the paramilitary rapid support forces began a 7-day truce on Monday intended to allow access to aid and services after battles since mid-April that have killed hundreds and created a refugee crisis. Despite a drop in fighting, there have been reports throughout the week of clashes, artillery fire and airstrikes. Saudi and U.S. representatives cautioned the parties against further violations and implored them to improve respect for the ceasefire. The UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, is moving tens of thousands of Sudanese refugees in Chad away from the Sudan border and into new camps. The UNHCR's visiting deputy says concerns about security and access to aid are increasing along with the number of refugees. Henry Wilkins reports from the Gaga refugee site in Chad.
Around 150 Sudanese refugees who just arrived in the town of Adra in Chad await transport to their new home, a refugee site 100 kilometers away from the Chad-Sudan border. Under the cover of darkness, Zara Harun Adam fled from West Darfur with her children 3 days ago.
Around 10 at night, we all escaped the fighting. Some of us went north and the others went south. We were divided, so I came here. People here welcomed us and provided us with food.
Marwa Adam Dawood Hamid, another Sudanese refugee, says she found leaving her country difficult and she worries about the future.
Of course, we will receive help at first and a welcome too, but then you're the one who is responsible for yourself beyond that. I'm talking about where we will live, how we will get clothes to wear. Healthcare too is important.
The refugees climb onto trucks in Adra, not knowing what awaits them, but it can only be better than staying in Sudan or this impoverished town, which has little to offer strangers. After enduring a grueling journey along dirt roads, they arrive at their destination, the Gaga refugee site, late at night. The following day, Raouf Mazou, Assistant High Commissioner for Operations at UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, visits Gaga. He explains why refugees must be moved away from the border quickly.
No, we're relocating refugees because it has been agreed that for security reasons. It is difficult for them to stay along the border. And secondly, for reasons of providing the support and assistance that they require.
On Tuesday, May 23rd, the Red Cross warned of a humanitarian disaster on the Chad-Sudan border as more refugees than expected have fled into Chad since Sudan's civil war started. With the rainy season approaching, promising to make transporting aid over dirt roads more difficult and violence likely to spill over into Chad, UNHCR is unlikely to have the means to move all the refugees away from the border in time. The Gaga refugee site has existed since Darfur's 2003 war. UNHCR says it's adding capacity for 10,000 new arrivals and intends to build a new camp nearby. Whether the 60,000 remaining refugees who have fled Sudan since its civil war started will find safe shelter is uncertain. Hamad says she has no desire to stay in Gaga.
The situation is horrible. I can't tell you. I'm not planning to stay here. I know that we need help, but we're planning to go back as soon as possible.
UNHCR says it's not expecting the situation in Sudan to improve soon, and aid groups complain of a critical lack of funding to assist refugees in Chad. Henry Wilkins for VOA News, Gaga, Chad.
Former Rwandan police officer Felix Kayishema, accused of ordering the killing of some 2,000 Tutsis who were seeking refuge in a church during the 1994 genocide, appeared briefly in a South African court on Friday. Kayishema was on the run for 2 decades and was arrested on Wednesday under a false name on a grape farm in Paarl, some 59 kilometers from Cape Town. He was a fugitive from justice since 2001, when the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda indicted him for genocide over his alleged role in the destruction of the Nyange Catholic Church in Kibuye Prefecture. He told journalists he did not have any role during the violence of the genocide, and he faces 5 charges in South Africa, including 2 of fraud, according to National Prosecuting Authority spokesperson Eric Ntabazalila.
I can confirm that Fulgence Kasiema appeared at Court 16 of the Cape Town Magistrates Court today. He is facing 5 charges, which is 2 of fraud and 3 counts of the contravention of the Immigration Act. The charges, the first 2 charges relate to that when he was seeking asylum, he gave a wrong name and said it's from Burundi. And the second, that was 2000. And when he applied for a refugee status in 2004, he gave the same name he gave when and claimed that he was from Burundi. Then the other 3 charges are around that he stayed in the country illegally. His case has been postponed to next Friday, the 2nd of June, for us to gather more information for him and for when he applies for bail. He's been remanded to Posmo prison, and there are more charges that we're likely to add.
The fraud counts relate to applications Kayishema made for asylum and refugee status in South Africa, where the National Prosecuting Authority alleges he gave his nationality as Burundian and used for a false name. He has been on the U.S. State Department's wanted list under the Rewards for Justice program, with a $5 million reward offered for his arrest. Nigeria's outgoing President Muhammadu Buhari is on his final working day as he prepares to hand over the reins of power to incoming President Bola Tinubu. Tinubu will be sworn in on Monday after a contentious election in which 2 other top presidential candidates, Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi, rejected and filed legal petitions at the Court of Appeal challenging the outcome announced by Nigeria's Electoral Board, INEC. On Friday, the Supreme Court dismissed an appeal seeking the disqualification of Bola Tinubu on the account of double nomination of his vice presidential candidate Shetima. As it stands, Tinubu will become Nigeria's next president, and Tinubu will be, as security is tight right now in Eagle Square, where Monday's swearing in for the incoming president will take place. Now for more on Nigeria's election and presidential dismissal of the appeal of PDP on Monday's presidential inauguration, I'm joined by Daniel Bwala, a Nigerian lawyer and legal analyst. Mr. Bwala, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Let's start with this interesting scenario. What are the legal implications, first of all, of swearing in a new president when the presidential petition is yet to be fully determined?
So unlike in Kenya, where they have a law that determines that election petition will have to be treated before the swearing in Nigeria, the electoral law does not provide for that. So you have 180 days within which the first case will be determined by the Court of Appeal, and then 60 days in the Supreme Court. So all in all, you're talking about 8 months between when these cases are going to be determined. So because of that unfortunate situation with our law, somebody will have to be sworn in while the case is being determined in the court.
So on what grounds did the Supreme Court dismiss the appeal today?
So the appeal that came to the Supreme Court arose from the trial court and the Court of Appeal, which initially held the view that PDP does not have a local standard to challenge the qualification of Shetima, who is the running mate of Tinubu, because PDP was not a member of the political party. So when you go to the Supreme Court held the same belief. In other words, the Supreme Court sustained the decision of the Court of Appeal that PDP didn't have a local standard. But the law, again, so Section 22 of the Supreme Court Act, gives the Supreme Court power to exercise jurisdiction to determine a case as if they are the court of first instance. But today, the Supreme Court said we could have done that. It's only that the time limit within which that pre-election matter could have been determined had passed. So because of that, we didn't have a jurisdiction to do that.
Now, this is very interesting because what are the options now does Atiku have, given that Tinubu will be sworn in on Monday anyway?
Yeah, so the option might just be moral in the sense of what is going to be your posture while the swearing in comes in. In terms of the law, there's nothing else they can do other than to watch that. But that does not obfuscate or takes away the fact that there is an election petition at the Court of Appeal at the moment, which will be determined someday. So for the whole of the period that Tinubu will have to be in that office while this case is being determined, Atiku does not have any legal option other than to wait until his case is determined by the court.
Now, what challenges await Tinubu when he takes the reins of power as Nigeria's president?
Unfortunately for Tinubu, he's coming at a time when we have multiplicity of problems in the country. You have 77 trillion naira, which the federal government will have to pay in the first 6 months. He has the case of fuel subsidy, which he has to take a position whether to take it away or to leave it. Then he has a diverse, polarized country around both religious and cultural line. And in addition to it now, politically, where a vast majority of the Nigerian people didn't vote for him. All of these are challenges that he's going to be confronted with. So how he approaches that with the hope of uniting the country, it's something that he will have to make up his mind to do that.
Daniel, we're very grateful that you are here on such a very, interesting topic and very timely. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Daniel Bwala is a Nigerian legal analyst. Now, Thursday, May 25th was Africa Day, the annual commemoration of the foundation of the Organization of African Unity on May 25th, 1963. To find out what people know and think about Africa Day, we spoke to some on the streets of Accra, Nairobi, and Nigeria.
African Day is a day where Africans come together to celebrate and to remember the history of Africans who were once slaves to the Western community. And I believe that it's a day that we understand and celebrate our history and our culture.
When we say African Day, we're talking about the identity of the African and the total emancipation of the African continent. Talking about the economic-wise, the social upliftment and the political and geopolitical emancipation of the African continent. An African Day gives me the pride, to be an African, and also a day for the recognition of the African and its contribution to the global space.
The only culture holding the whole world together is from Africa. When you talk of culture in diversity, it is Africa.
We've not made progress. We're not even united. There's injustice everywhere, no love. So I don't think it worth it. Nothing. Africa has not gotten anything.
Streets of Nairobi, Accra, and Abuja, reflecting on Africa Day. Now, what do you do on Saturdays? In Goma, Eastern DRC, every Saturday of the month, residents come together to clean up the environment and improve sanitation in their communities. VOA's Paul Ndiho just recently returned from Goma, DRC, and he has a first-hand report for us.
Kenyan-born hotelier James Nsawala, the general manager of Serena Hotel Goma, has earned a reputation as a humble and kind servant leader. He inspires his team not through words alone, but through his actions. Armed with straw brooms, rakes, and wheelbarrows, James displays and epitomizes servant leadership. He doesn't just stand there and watch his staff work. He grabs a broom and sweeps alongside them, getting his hands dirty, just like everyone else.
We love living in a clean environment. We know if we don't take care of the environment today, tomorrow there won't be any city to be proud of.
While on a reporting assignment in the Eastern DRC, it was an inspiring sight to see the general manager of a five-star hotel down on his hands and knees, picking up litter and joking around with his team members.
As part of the corporate social responsibility, the management of Serena Hotel Goma is trying to inspire and empower young people in the neighborhood to be part of a solution.
In addition to leading his staff, James uses his leadership skills to engage street gangs in the community and a group of women volunteers to participate in the monthly street cleanups.
We sweep our streets every morning to live in a clean-up environment. So guests are happy when they come.
I am happy to sweep the streets. We want Goma to move forward. So it must be clean. That's why we do it every single day.
This experience left me humbled and with a deep appreciation for James and his team's work for their community. When he trades his gloves for an Italian suit, he is the first one in the office every morning.
We stand really for the environment, and we really fight to protect the environment. And whenever we operate, wherever we have presence, that's the first thing we want to impact.
James has become a role model for his staff and community members. James also took time to connect with his team personally and listen to their concerns. Paul Ndiho, VOA News, Washington.
And we'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
What impact do beauty pageants and titles have in advocating for social, economic issues in our societies? And although the global standards of beauty have recently become more inclusive to embrace African culture, on this week's episode of Our Voices, we'll speak to some beauty queens and examine how pageantry platforms in Africa and in the diaspora are being used to bring positive change.
Join the conversation each week right here on Our Voices.
Kigali, we are here for the BAL Finals. For the best of African basketball. The Sahara and Nile Conference delivered their verdict. The top 8 teams on the continent are chasing the Holy Grail. Who will be the next BAL champion? It's game time.
In other news, Kenya's Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki told Kenya's Senate Friday that cult leader Paul Mackenzie used armed gangs to kill followers who changed their minds about starving themselves to meet Jesus, while those who took too long to die were strangled or suffocated to death. The Shakahola massacre has shocked the East African nation as grave diggers continue to find more bodies. Germany extended its military mission in Mali for one final year on Friday as Berlin aims to wind up by May 2024, a decade-old mission that has been hampered by disputes with the ruling military junta in Bamako and the arrival of Russian forces. Germany has deployed some 1,000 troops to Mali, mostly near the northern town of Gao, where main task is to gather reconnaissance for the UN peacekeeping mission, MINUSMA. South Africa's central bank raised its main interest rate on Thursday to a 14-year high, a move the bank's governor described as bitter medicine needed to tame inflation. The bank lifted rates by 50 basis points to 8.25% as it raised its inflation forecast for this year and next, and said risks were to the upside. And now to the Africa Basketball League matches. Let's go live to Kigali, Rwanda, where VOA sports reporter Chek Tiero is standing by for us. Chek, where are you? I don't see you yet. There you are. So give us the latest on today's matches, Chek.
I'm here, Esther. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, Esther, today is the third position game today is happening right now. Stade Malien between Stade Malien and Equipe Petro de Luanda from Angola is playing right now about the third seed. We see that we're in the halftime of that game. Stade Malien is leading by 2 points. They've been leading from the beginning to the end. The winner of this game, Esther, will be the third place of this season.
And so who is playing tomorrow? I suppose it's the last day. I'm not so sure. Who is playing? What's happening?
The Stade Malien of Mali, Bamako, is playing against Petro de Luanda from Angola. They just got off the first half, and Stade Malien is leading by 2 points, 36-34, and that's the game we are watching right now. And after that game, we're going to have a scrimmage between the Ball Elevate. I will tell you, Ball Elevate is the group of young men Amadou Gallo Fall put together to spread them out in the team on the ball for them to have an experience and get exposure to the professional and United States school educations.
Hey, Chek, tell me, are there any women referees?
Absolutely, Esther. We have seen women in the staff and the Basketball Africa League staff, and we have seen 4 referees that are women, and we also see, of course, Coach Lesmille. And after my question with my interview with many people in that leading this conference, majority of them, including Amadou Gallo Fall and everybody that I asked about this, they say they're trying to have more women in this league from the organization standpoint and to the team. Right now they're working on in their next move on Mozambique. They will talk about women, how they can involve women to be coming on this Basketball Africa League as well. As you can see behind me, I have a lot of people here. The head coach of Senegal, because when they had the best coach of the year's trophy, and I'm sitting by here by them, people are taking pictures with him right now, and the trophies sit tight in their gym. We will see who's going to take that trophy tomorrow as they're between Al Ali from Egypt and AS Douane from Senegal tomorrow.
Right. Thank you so much, Chek, for that report. VOA Sports reporter Chek Tiero, live for us in Kigali, Rwanda. Art from across Africa is on display in a newly renovated gallery at the Denver Art Museum in the U.S. state of Colorado. VOA Scott Stearns shows us what is on display.
The new Arts of Africa gallery at the Denver Art Museum mixes historic and contemporary designs, showcasing a collection of masks in ways truer to their cultural roles, says museum fellow Adekunle Adeniji.
It's a part of the society. It's a functional object which sometimes has like historical and spiritual and undertones. So there's the old regalia, the masquerade, then there's the performance, the music, and it's a whole lot going on. So that the audience can have a feel of what the whole scenario is like.
The gallery recently reopened after renovation. Brightening its new look is a painting by Nigerian artist Moyo Ogundipe.
The message behind that work is deep into talking about the spirituality of the Yoruba culture and the Yoruba religion, and trying to depict them in ancient forms, but in using the contemporary relevance.
Adeniji says organizers are looking for interesting vibes in the gallery, which plays contemporary Afrobeat music in the background. Scott Stearns, VOA News, Denver.
Africa Day was also celebrated with live music concerts. Host and producer of the radio program Music Time in Africa, Heather Maxwell, has more with a guest from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Hello, Heather.
Hi, Esther. Yes, that is right. Radio producer at KBC, Kenya Broadcasting Corporation in Nairobi, Bill Odidi, traveled to Addis for a special Africa Day concert. He joins us by Skype. Hi, Bill.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
Happy Africa Day.
Thank you, to you too. How was Africa Day there?
No, it was great. And what better city to be celebrating Africa Day than Addis Ababa, which is the location where the Organization of African Unity was formed 60 years ago. So this was a big occasion, and it was a delight to be here in Addis. You're just seeing there the clip of one of the bands performing, Santrofi from Ghana, performing last night. But also coinciding with the celebration was the launch of an initiative called Connect for Culture Africa, which is an initiative to strengthen the cultural ties between different African nations, and also to compel African leaders to and African governments to commit 1% of their annual budgets to supporting cultural activities. So just a showcase such as the one we had yesterday was an incredible opportunity to showcase the beauty of the diversity of African culture, particularly through music. So it was brilliant.
That's fantastic. So we had Santrofi performing and also an Ethiopian band, Gonder, performing, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, in the last 2 days since we've been here in Addis, we've not just sampled the very best of Ethiopian food, but we've also seen the beauty of Ethiopian music. And this is a band from the northern part of Ethiopia. Huge cultural troupe, I think more than 25 members, and there they were showcasing the very best of their performance from the Amhara region of Ethiopia. So that was beautiful, beautiful to see. And at some point there was a collaboration between the Ghanaians, Santrofi, and the Ethiopians. So that was,
That is fantastic. Bill, thank you so much. That was Bill Odidi reporting from Addis Ababa. And I leave you, well, I don't think we have time. We had some more video for you, but time back to you, Esther.
Thank you so much, Heather. Be sure to join Heather Maxwell again next week on Friday right here on Africa 54. And that's our show for today, this Friday. Join us again on Monday. From all of us in Washington, have a great weekend. Thank you, Heather. I was going to tell Bill.